going on, man? I'm on my way to deadlift, and that means one thing. I have a little ritual. Check it. Arby's roast beef, a junior, and a Jamocha shake. That's what I do. It's a thick one. That's what she said. Yeah, so you can drink your little pre-workout. Whatever. I always go with food. Okay, so what's the point of my video today? My video is on training styles. Okay. Now, you can train high volume. You can train West Side. You can train linear periodization. You can train no plan at all. Just go in and do whatever you want to do. I see a ton of YouTube videos that want to discuss the pros and cons of all those styles. But there's one thing everybody leaves out. And I think it's the most important thing when you decide on how you want to train. And I also think it's the most important thing in what's going to determine if you stick with how you train. Because you got to stick with something to reap some gains out of it. Otherwise the shit's not going to work. So what is it? Your training has to suit your personality. It's like these people that get in relationships and you bitch and bitch and bitch because you never get along. But the personalities clash. It's never going to work. The same thing with a training program. And I'll give you an example. So, for almost a year now, I've been training a lot of high volume Russian style, just grease the groove, train the lifts multiple times per week, high volume, high frequency. And it's been good. But you know what? I'm miserable. I'll tell you why. Because I'm a bit of a wild person. You know, I like to do things on the fly. I'm scrappy. Moment's notice, I'll jump right in, let's go. I have to have structure, or I fuck up in life. Even in my life, my personal life, I have to have a structured day. Because I'm too crazy to not have structure. Because then I'll just go do a bunch of stupid shit I'm not supposed to do. And we all know how that works out. Well, you know, grease the groove, Prilepin's table. You have some parameters. I go and train and they say, well, more training, more adaptation. Well, for a person like me, what happens is I end up deadlifting 5 days a week, squatting 4 or 5 days a week, benching 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week, and I get injured, and I'm overtraining. I feel like shit all the time because there's really no structure. You know, in comparison, if you look to like a linear periodization program, the simplest one out there today being Jim Wendler's 5-3-1. I love it. I work up to a top set for the day. The numbers are set. Each week builds on each successive week. And you peak over time. There's structure. It's discipline. That's what I need. I can't just have a free-for-all, well, just judge how you feel, and there has to be guidelines. I trained for 10 years with the West Side methods. And they were good. I mean, it got me, it took my deadlift from like 225 up to 640. And, you know, I went from being a relative, like, nobody, I was 157 pounds when I was 19. And by the time I was, I don't know, 32, I was competing in pro-level strongman in Canada. I'm not a top-tier level pro, but the fact of the matter is, I made it there. So, you know, West Side worked for me for a long time. But when I left strongman and I got into powerlifting, I just didn't want to do it anymore. I've tried it so many times, and again, it's just, there's no real structure to the system. Like, just kind of go in and do a variation, and I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? So my heart hasn't really been into it, that training system, for like the last 4 or 5 years. Anyway, that's enough about me. My point is, your training has to match your personality. You're a very regimented person, you like to see linear progression, use a linear system. If you have better self-control and you're instinctual, you know, use a Russian program. If you like to have no structure whatsoever and just fucking do whatever you want to do, train a conjugated periodization. It's up to you. So that's my advice. Make sure your training system suits your personality. And I'll tell you something, you guys who are in your 20s, what you follow now might not be what you follow 10 years from now, because your personality is going to change. So keep that in mind. See ya.